Hello, welcome to the Butler Collegian Newscast. I'm Catalina Gallegos.
And I'm Nicki Clark.
This weekend, Butler launched a $250 million campaign called Butler Beyond. The university already has over $171 million raised from over 27,000 donors. This plan is a strategic direction for the university focusing on non-physical and educational assets, opportunities, and partnerships. President Danko said, quote, "We intend to hold firmly to the traditions and values that have always defined a Butler education while evolving to meet the changing needs and expectations of learners, employers, and society in the 21st century," end quote.
Butler's 2019 homecoming will see the return of a long-standing tradition, the Sigma Chi chariot races. The races were canceled in 2018 due to Sigma Chi's probation and safety concerns. The chariot races underwent a risk evaluation which involved the group of fraternity leaders working with Butler's risk management department to put together an event proposal to address the event's risk in a proactive way to help reduce them. The Sigma Chi fraternity is currently on probation until December 2019, but will appeal to end it after fall break. Sigma Chi President Jude Phillips says that this year's chariot races will still happen regardless of if the administration approves the appeal or not.
For the first time ever, Butler's LGBTQ+ Alliance is hosting events leading up to National Coming Out Day on October 11th. The organization has already hosted events outside of Starbucks and a resource fair in the Riley Room, and will continue to host events during the rest of the week.
The Butler University Police Department released their annual crime report for 2018. The report shows an increase in reports of sexual assault and stalking instances on campus. On-campus reports are defined as areas like residence halls, Butler-owned apartments, and other areas normally considered as part of campus. However, they do not include Greek or senior houses. There was only one reported case of sexual assault for these non-campus areas, bringing the total to 13 for 2018. BUPD's Chief of Public Safety, John Conley, attributes the increase in reported cases on campus to an increase in reporting rather than an increase of instances of sexual assault. BUPD highly recommends students to report any suspicious activity.
Butler Student Government Association has an exciting announcement of a new program that provides students with tickets to concerts in the Indianapolis area. The committee is planning on choosing approximately 5 concerts held at various venues around Indianapolis. Tickets will be available to students via sign-ups and giveaways hosted by SGA. The students who win giveaways will receive a free ticket. Now Chelsea Groves is in the studio with opinion columnist Abby Pluff.
Thanks, guys. I'm joined by opinion columnist Abby Pluff. She is the author behind Ask Abby, which comes out every few weeks. And she wrote an article about the dynamics of being an introvert in college and just what that looks like. So what's it about?
So basically my article is just about finding your innermost self and coming to terms with that and relating that to finding your best college experience. So if you don't really feel like going out all the time, then don't. But if you do, then that's fine too.
And when you were writing this, how did you tie in certain experiences that you've been through in college?
So my college experience has constantly kind of been a juggle of what you see in the movies and what's expected of you. You have all of these friends, and I do have a lot of amazing, wonderful friends. But sometimes I really need alone time, and kind of figuring out that for me, the best way to tackle college is to be by myself sometimes and do things alone, and that's okay. So it's really kind of a letter to myself.
Yeah, and with your advice column that you write every other week, what is your main goal of getting out of those?
I really think, first and foremost, I think I do write them to myself. So I really write what I need to hear, and sometimes that means writing it and kind of faking it until I make it. And maybe I'm having a hard time coming to terms with myself and being introverted that week, and then when I write it to myself, I can kind of say that's okay. So it's kind of a letter to myself first, and then maybe if it helps me, it can help somebody else too.
Now, do you think that, as they've compiled throughout the weeks, do you think that you get glimpses of different ones kind of coming up in other articles that you write in the present too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel as I move forward, sometimes I'll be writing one and I'm I've already talked about this, but it just comes up over and over and over again. And then things come up in conversation and I'm oh, I can write about that. It's like, I've already written pretty much the same thing, but it all just, I think, relates so well when you're talking about like self-love. It all kind of ties together.
Well, Abby, thank you so much for joining us. And you can also see your article on the ButlerCollegian.com too, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Guys, back to you.
Wow, so interesting. What a much needed column for the Collegian to have. Now we send things over to global analyst Kat Embry for another edition of Kat's Corner.
As was mentioned, the LGBTQ+ Alliance here at Butler is hosting events for National Coming Out Day this Friday. This is 50 years after the official start of the movement. Pride globally began in 1969 when police barged into the Stonewall Inn, a place which openly supported the LGBT community. It was operating without a license because licenses were not given to those that served gay patrons. The arrest drew a crowd and violence ensued. Within minutes, there was a full-blown riot with hundreds involved. The following week's demonstrations continued outside the bar to show solidarity to the LGBT community. This was the start of the gay pride movement we know today, which spread across the country and then the world. Butler's LGBTQ+ Alliance continues this movement, and on Tuesday, the Supreme Court will make a ruling that will affect the wider LGBTQ+ community, as well as Butler students. This concerns Amy Stevens, who was a director of a funeral home until she told her co-workers that she'd had sex reassignment surgery. When she promptly was fired, she then sued. It's the first time that the Supreme Court will hear arguments regarding the civil rights of a transgender individual. Whatever the outcome next week, it will set precedents for all other cases of sex discrimination in the US. From Stonewall to Amy Stevens, there are certainly parallels, but Butler's LGBTQ+ Alliance demonstrates the change that's been made in 50 years. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Kat. Now filling in for Jake Bedell this week is Chuck Levine. What's going on this week, Chuck?
Well, Nikki, Butler women's soccer took on Villanova last Sunday, looking to improve their conference record to 2-1. The Dogs controlled the game through the first 40 minutes, but gave up a goal in the 41st to Nova's Michaela Stadler to put the Wildcats up 1-0. The Dogs did come through late with a penalty kick in the 86th minute by Anya Savage. The game remained tied to the end of regulation, and after 20 minutes of overtime was ruled a draw. The Bulldogs host St. John's on October 13th. On the men's side of the ball, Butler took on Providence last Friday. They went down 1-0 early, but tied up the game in the 48th minute on a goal by Brendan Hicks. The Dogs took the lead in the 60th minute off a goal from Wilmer Cabrera Jr., his third of the season. Brendan Hicks scored his second goal of the night in the 71st minute, leading the Dogs to a 3-1 victory. Hicks' performance earned him Big East Freshman of the Week. Butler football took on Stetson last Saturday in a game that went down to the wire. In the first half, Butler quarterback Sam Brown threw one touchdown, which was later accompanied by a 30-yard field goal by Drew Bevelheimer and a 62-yard touchdown run by backup quarterback Nick Orlando, putting the Dogs up 17-14 at the half. The game would continue to stay close in the second half with a touchdown and field goals for both teams. With the game tied in the fourth quarter, the Hatters had one more opportunity and converted a field goal as time expired. The Bulldogs will host Drake next Saturday at the Selleck Bowl. The volleyball team had a solid week of conference play, going 2-1. They won back-to-back 5-set games against DePaul and Georgetown. Their first matchup was highlighted by double-digit kills from Anna Logan, Shea Horn, and Brittany Robinson, as well as 6 straight points to end the game off of serve by Megan Ramsayer. The Georgetown game was tightly contested as Butler picked up the first 2 sets but dropped the next 2 to the Hoyas. Melody Davidson led the Dogs to their second straight win with 4 kills and 2 blocks. That's where the fun would end, though, as they got swept by Villanova last Saturday. A blowout was sandwiched by 2 close-scoring sets, but the Bulldogs were unable to turn the tides to find a win. Melody Davidson was awarded Big East Defensive Player of the Week for her work over the weekend. Now over to our sports analyst, Chelsea Groves, for her Team of the Week.
Thank you, Chuck. The Collegian Team of the Week is women's golf. We have quite the list of results. The Bulldogs took second out of 8 teams at the Butler Fall Invitational, with Caitlin Lee and Allie Ross finishing first and second overall in the 51-player field. Lee finished the 2-day 54-hole outing at 221, with Ross at 223. Megan Skoog tied for 17th place at 234. Claire Edwards tied for 24th at 239, and Emma Kelly tied for 27th at 242. Janisa Bondag played as an individual, taking 10th place at 229. Avery Van Delingen in 19th at 235. Betsy Werner came in 20th at 236.
Lexi Stuckey at 244 for 33rd place, and Nicole Jordan at 247 for 40th. They'll be back in action on Monday and Tuesday of next week at the Dayton Flyer Invitational. Nikki, Catalina, back to you guys.
That's all for this week's Butler Collegian Newscast. To stay up to date with all things news on Butler's campus, visit us at thebutlercollegian.com or on Twitter at Butler Collegian. I'm Nikki Clark.
I'm Catalina Gallegos.
And I'm Chuck Levine.
Have a great week, dogs.